Hello aspirants, looking at current affairs for 10th November. The 9 news items which we have picked up from the Hindu are these. The first one, shock and awe win for Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has become the 45th president of USA. His running mate Mike Pence will be the vice president of USA. So these are Republican candidates who defeated their Democratic opponent Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, if she would have won these elections, she would have become the first female president of USA. So USA has not had any female president so far. That is since 1789. Anyway, both had become controversial. There were allegations against Hillary Clinton regarding her connections with top financiers in the Wall Street. Then there were allegations against Donald Trump also. He had made many controversial statements regarding women, minorities, immigrants, Mexicans, Afro-Americans, differently abled, even war veterans, and LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender community. But now after winning the elections, he has become conciliatory. His speech, he said that I pledge to every citizen of our land that I will be president of all Americans. So there is inclusiveness resounding here in his speech. But he won the elections based on the support which he got from the white blue-collared workers. So blue-collared workers means people who are manual workers, as against white-collared workers, which means people who work in offices and cubicles. So these less educated people were the ones who actually supported him, as per the reports coming out too. So he had made his statements very clear. He said that I am the ultimate insider turned ultimate outsider. That actually means that he is himself a real estate mogul. So he is amongst those super rich. And he says that globalization has not favored all equally. So people here feel deprived of the fruits of globalization, which has made rich much richer, but they have not been benefited equally at the lower strata. So now what he says is that I was the ultimate insider in this globalization, and now I am standing at the post of president, and I will be working for the outsiders, means the people, the lower class people. So that is what he is saying, and based on which people supported him to fight against the menace, because of which globalization has resulted in even jobs being deprived from the people in America, and immigrants even from India take over the jobs which would actually go to Americans. So these all are the results of globalization. So this is the anti-globalization wave too, and inclusiveness, protectionist wave, which we see all over. So that is what is the similarity between Brexit and Trump's election too, as you must have read in some articles too. Means they want to be inclusive within their country. They don't want outsiders to come and dictate terms to them or take the fruits of development from them. So that is what is seen here. You can see the election results too here. These are the states of America, and this red color represents the Republicans, Donald Trump, and the blue color represents the Democrats. So the elections, the way elections take place in America is also interesting. The people of USA vote for electors. So they elect electors who form the electoral college, and this electoral college then votes for the post of the president. So presently the elections taking place are for the electors. So these electors have already declared the allegiance to the representative from Republican or Democratic Party. So that their vote is clearly out. So now each state gets a number of electors that is dependent on the population of that state. So those electors are being elected. So this is how elections take place. Again, if you look at popular votes, in terms of popular votes, Clinton got the majority. But in terms of electoral votes, Trump wins. So popular votes basically means out of the entire population of America, how many people supported Hillary. So there were more people who were supporting Hillary. But then elections are taking place state-wise. So in each state, how many people voted for Republican. So there, in terms of that electoral college votes, Trump is the winner. So that's the idea. Then looking at the initial process too, about how the entire process starts. So there in USA, there's a two-party system. So each of these two parties decide who will be their representative for the presidential elections. So there is intra-party election too. So that is called the National Convention. So even how these candidates are selected is before that through primaries and caucuses. So primaries and caucuses means in the political party, means in Republican Party, they will decide, they will have candidates coming forth that we want to stand for the post of president. So there will be either closed voting, secret voting, that is called primaries, and caucuses means where there is a meeting, open meeting, discussion on the candidate, and then their names are decided. So primaries, caucuses both take place, and the candidates for the post of president from a political party are decided. So there is intra-party competition now. Number of candidates are decided, and then each of them has a national convention. So Democrats have their own national convention, Republicans also have the national convention, and these national conventions then finally decide the one pair of president and vice president to be, who will be decided as the representative of that political party. So after that, then the debates take place. There are televised debates. So that is the third stage after the national convention, and then the general elections take place where the electors are elected, and then the step 4 is where this electoral college will vote for the post of the president. So that is the entire process, right? Then next, looking at India-US relations, how would that be affected, or how Indians in USA would be affected because of Donald Trump being elected as the president. Donald Trump has clearly aired his views against immigrants. So he has said that he will increase the salary wage limit for H-1B visas, means people who are getting at least $1 lakh per annum would be eligible for H-1B visa. So that wage hike would be done here. So that would result in stricter immigration laws. So that is clear. So we have to wait and watch. There have been many such instances where during elections people make tall claims and they have high promises which they give to the people, but when they actually come to the post and govern and administer the country, they realize the constraints and how the economy would overall suffer from all perspectives. The issue is discussed and then the policies may be different. So we'll have to wait and watch what actually happens with respect to this too. Then this is about L1 visas and H1B visas. So L1 visas actually for temporary intra-company transfers for temporary period like 3 months or so, and H-1B visas are visas on which people can work for a longer term too. So it goes up to 3 years. It can be extended further too. So that is there. Then demonetization to hit terror financing hard. So it is said that terror financing is through fake currencies which come into the economy in India through Pakistan. So from Pakistan they travel by air or land route to Bangladesh, and from Bangladesh through porous borders they come into India, and this is the money which is used for funding terrorist activities in India. So this demonetization of the 500 and 1000 rupee notes in India presently is also an attack on terror financing. So there is no clear study actually about how much black money is there in India or how much fake currency is there in India as well. So with respect to fake currency, there has been an appointed study which has been conducted by Indian Statistical Institute of Kolkata. So this study was done on behalf of NIA, National Investigation Agency, and in this study in 2015 it came clear that there are around 70 crore worth fake notes which are pumped into the economy every year. So this has been made clear. Also it says that at any point of time 400 crore worth of fake currencies are in circulation in the economy. There cannot be a clear statement here because currency which is there with the public, whether it is fake or not, how much of it is fake is not known. Only when it comes into the banking system it can be known whether the currency is fake or not. So that is the problem. That is why a clear viewpoint is not there. But anyway, with these estimates too also it is clear that the fake currencies are there which are only 0.025% of the total budget outlay. So that is clear. Plus it is also seen that this many security provisions in these currencies have been compromised, and one major reason for this being that the currency notes, raw material which is supplied to India, the suppliers are same for Pakistan also. So India has raised these concerns quite often with the suppliers in USA, UK and Germany, but this continues to be the case and this helps them in making counterfeit notes. So this is again one significant point which needs to be considered. So suppliers of material is like the ink which is used for these currencies, the silver thread which is used is same for India and Pakistan. Then the next news item is currency recall version 3 has the same story to tell. So this is regarding the currency demonetization which has taken place right now. Is the third time that India has done so. The earlier two occasions, one was in 1946, just a year before independence, and the second case was in 1978, just a year after Janata Party had come to power. So in 1946, we had demonetized the currency to counter black money issues, because these higher order notes are the ones which are used to hoard black money. So the notes which were there in circulation then were 500 rupee notes, 1000 rupee notes, and also 10,000 rupee notes. So all three were demonetized. And in 1956, actually 1954, 8 years later, we had brought back high denomination notes, that is 1000, 5000 and 10,000 rupee notes were again brought in. Then after Janata Party came to power in 1978, we demonetized all these three new notes introduced again. So 1000, 5000, 10,000 were demonetized again. Later again, 1000 and 500 rupee notes have been introduced. Presently, we don't have 5000, 10,000 currencies, but these two have right now in November been demonetized. So this is the third time we have done this, and in all three cases, the main target was black money. So that is there. Then the next news item is currency demonetization has precedence in India and elsewhere. So we saw the precedence in India. It has happened earlier, and it has happened in various countries also for various reasons. So in Zimbabwe, it faced hyperinflation in 2008 when the value of the currency fell drastically. Means you needed millions of Zimbabwe dollars to buy essential items too. So post that, of course, the currency lost its value. So the currency was demonetized and the dollarization later took place. Then in Singapore, demonetization took place of Japanese banana notes. That was at the time of Japanese occupation of Singapore during World War II, that these notes were there in Singapore, circulating in Singapore, but then later they were derecognized. Then in Fiji, demonetization has taken place. This transition took place. The reason here was that they changed the currency system to decimal system. So decimal system is in terms of tens, hundreds. So the currency system, like we also know about, like 4 ana, 8 ana, 12 ana, 1 rupaya. So 8 ana is 50%. So this is not decimal. So decimal is 50 paise. So that way the decimal system was adopted for currency in Fiji later. So that is why they demonetized the old currencies. Then in Philippines, demonetization of currency took place. It said that in countries, developed countries also world over, there is this trend of demonetization of currency when it is in circulation for over 10 years. So with keeping with that trend, Philippines also demonetized this currency. So that is a welcome move. This does take place. Then the next news item is plea in Supreme Court seeking quashing of demonetization decision. So there is one significant aspect actually, that the demonetization which had taken place earlier, it had taken place through an ordinance, and the demonetization which has taken place right now is through an announcement by the Prime Minister to the general public. So there is a difference on this aspect, and also this petition has been filed in the Supreme Court saying that immediately discontinuing is causing hardships to the general people, especially the poor. So people are suffering. So that is the reason why it is asking for the Supreme Court to put a stay on this or quash this order. So that is the demand made. We'll have to wait and watch. The hearing will take place. So we'll see what the Supreme Court has to say on this matter too in the future dates. Then the next news item is again related to judiciary. This is regarding Jallikattu. So the Supreme Court is asking, why import a Roman style gladiator sport? Asked Supreme Court. So Jallikattu is a bull taming sport or event which is organized during the time of Pongal in Tamil Nadu. So it's an ancient sport. So in this, the horns of the bull are tied with gold and silver coins. So Jallikattu actually means gold and silver. And the youths then raise these and try to tame these bulls by holding their humps. So that is what this exercise is, and this is called a sport. So the controversy here is regarding the atrocities committed on the animal. So it's cruelty to animal, and Supreme Court calls itself the parent patriae. So on the basis of doctrine of parent patriae, means an animal who cannot speak, who cannot fight for its rights, the judiciary takes over the responsibility and it has to ensure that the rights of animals are also upheld. Also, we have various acts. Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960, which does not allow any cruelty to be meted on any animal. Also, there is another act, Prevention of Cruelty to Draught and Pack Animals. These rules are also there. So based on these two, it says that bull is a draught animal. It is not supposed to be used in sports. So on these grounds, Supreme Court has already quashed Jallikattu. So it has declared Jallikattu illegal. But then as a response to this was done in 2014. As a response to this, in Jan 2016, the central government, on the basis of demands from Tamil Nadu, passed an order allowing Jallikattu to take place. So the Supreme Court is presently hearing that matter on this order passed, and it has stayed this order and it's asked the center, how can you support Jallikattu? The central government has given its various viewpoints, talking about its reference in Mahabharata and it being called an ancient tradition. So the Supreme Court, as a response to this, also says that it's just been an ancient tradition does not mean that it should continue. It says child marriage was also an ancient tradition, so age-old traditions do not continue. If they are not in for the welfare of the society, they have to be stopped. So Supreme Court is against Jallikattu and wants to end it, but it's hearing the argument on this. The another justification given for Jallikattu is that it says that it results in encouraging breeding of indigenous bulls. So because every year this Jallikattu exercise takes place, because of which farmers breed and prepare their bulls for this fight. So that results in encouraging the indigenous breeds also. So anyway, there are arguments and counter arguments taking place, but comparing it with the Spanish bullfight, which is famous, is wrong, because Spanish bullfight is much more cruel on the animal, but that does not justify lower level of cruelty on animals. So anyway, there is in this attack, they are also hurt, the animals are also hurt, bulls are even killed. So those aspects are also there, but here that aspect is not there. The bull is revered, but then still it results in hurting the animals. Also it results in many deaths for humans also. So we'll have to see what takes place further on this matter too. Then about Uttarakhand. Uttarakhand accounts for 1/3 of tigers outside reserves. There are around 49 tiger reserves in India, where the tiger population is concentrated. But there are also tigers outside these tiger reserves. So in terms of that, Uttarakhand accounts for 1/3 of these tigers outside the tiger reserves. So that is what a study has shown. This is regarding the concentration of tigers in India too. 45% of the tigers are in Western Ghats, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Goa. Then 37% are here in Shivalik Gangetic Plains. This is Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar. Then 36% are in the northeast and Brahmaputra floodplains. 14% are in Central India and Eastern Ghats. And 9% are in Sundarbans here. So this is the concentration. These are the top 5 states in terms of tiger population as per the 2014 data. So Karnataka has the maximum, then second comes Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, and then Maharashtra. So this is overall tiger population too. Also we see that in 2006 there was a drastic reduction in the tiger population in the country, and post that now they have increased again because of effective conservation measures taken too. Then this is regarding the tiger reserves in India too. Jim Corbett National Park, this is the one in Uttarakhand, the state which we were talking of right now in this article. So there are various tiger reserves in various states, and there are questions asked in UPSC in prelims about a reserve, wildlife sanctuary, and then where are they located. So this is important for prelims. Then the last news item is Goa Bird Festival calling all nature enthusiasts. So there's a 3-day bird festival at Bondla Wildlife Sanctuary in Goa. So again, this is important from the same prelims perspective, that wildlife sanctuary and tiger reserves and bird sanctuaries are to be studied. So Goa has these wildlife sanctuaries and bird sanctuaries. Salim Ali Bird Sanctuary is in Goa. Bondla Wildlife Sanctuary, which we spoke of right now, is here. And this is Mollem Wildlife Sanctuary, also known as Bhagwan Mahavir Sanctuary. So the national park is called Mollem National Park, and the name, it is named as Bhagwan Mahavir now. So Goa has these wildlife sanctuaries. The state bird of Goa is Bulbul. That is the logo of this present bird festival too in Bondla Wildlife Sanctuary. So of course Goa lies in the Western Ghats. We also saw right now. It has concentration of tigers also, as we discussed. So this is about the news for today. Thank you.